everyone, and welcome to today's class. For today, no props are needed for today's flow, so whenever you have your mat and your space to practice, go ahead and meet me in a seated position at the top of your mat. So coming into your seat, you're going to let your sit bones come down to the earth. Feet are going to be flat out in front of you, and your knees are going to be bent. So when coming into this space, you can just play with your positioning here, whatever comes naturally, comes comfortably to you. And by that, I mean kind of playing with how far away your feet are from you. Maybe you want them tucked in towards you so you can hug your knees. Like if you were laying on your back and you bring your knees in towards your chest and give it a nice squeeze. If you want to have your feet together to touch so you can grab opposite elbows, finding an even deeper compression. Or if you want to bring your feet out really wide and maybe grabbing hold of the ankles, elbows into the inner edges of the knees. Again, find a variation that feels good for you, that feels like your body is calling for, because each of those variations can play a different role into the hips, into the back, and into the general space that you have available within your body. But wherever you find your home, anchor into your sit bones. Feel that heaviness, that connection into the earth. And then find lightness, find length all the way through the spine. Wherever you are, you should be able to pull your chest forward, bring your collarbones wide. And then pulling that energy all the way through the crown of the head so that your gaze is forward. You feel the back of the skull, gentle lift there to keep that length all the way through the cervical spine, through the neck, and through the top of the head. And once you find your space here, you knowing where your center is, knowing where your home is, feel free to take a few gentle rocks side to side. Nice and slow with ease, finding a rhythmic motion, a relaxing pace. And you should be able to explore that movement with whatever position you came into today. And maybe wherever you chose to start, you're kind of working your way through all the different positions I ran through with you. So maybe you want to take your stance closer. Maybe you want to find a little bit more width. Just feel free to explore. And just settle into your space, into your body here at the beginning of class. Two more breaths. And wherever you are, go ahead and find your center. Re-anchor into your sit bones and find that length. Pull it all the way up through the spine. Pull the collarbones nice and wide as you gently press the chest forward. And then wherever you started from, go ahead and bring everything in towards one another and in together towards one another to give your legs a big squeeze. Find that compression. Pull everything in and squeeze. Pull that energy together for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release all that tension. And then bring your feet out wide. So you may have explored one of these two resting poses getting started today. So we're going to move from one to the other. So now that we found that compression, we're going to find some space. So bring the feet wide, probably wider than the mat, and just a gentle turn of the toes outward. And then you're going to bring your hands back behind you as like a little kickstand to keep your chest, your spine supported so you can keep that upright position. If this is something that's uncomfortable for you, bring the feet out a little bit wider. See if that brings a little bit more ease, more comfort. If opening that angle doesn't necessarily provide you with the space you wanted, try putting a little bit of support underneath your sit bones. That might help as well. And so finding your center, pull the chest up and open. And then allow the knees to start to draw over towards the left. So pressing the left knee over towards the left, trying to find as much opening as you can, keeping that right hip anchored for as long as you can until the right hip then pulls over. So just exploring some more space within the hips. So keeping that left hip anchored where it is, start to drive the right knee up and open. Keep that left hip anchored for as long as you can. Create as much space from one knee to the next until that left knee just needs to follow along. And then allow your body to keep that line of tension until the right knee falls, the left knee follows. And then coming into almost like a deer leg pose over towards the right side. Then keep that right knee anchored and then drive the outside edge of that left knee over towards the left. And then try to keep that space deep in the space between one hip to the next, one knee to the next, and then drive until that right knee just can't help but follow. Keeping that line of tension as long as you can. And then the right knee starts to soften, closing off, coming over towards the left. A few more times back and forth. Start to drive the right knee out and open. Explore a little bit more space each time. Can we deepen that with each round? And then the right knee drives for as much as it can until the left knee just has to follow over towards the right. Drive the left knee. Create that space. And then the right knee starts to follow. Close it off. One more time each side. Drive the right knee. Open everything up. Coming in through center. Maybe finding a pause if that feels good. And then the right knee falls. Left knee collapses over towards the right. And that was actually our second side. So we're just going to drive the left knee up and towards the center. So drive the left knee, drive. Keep that right knee anchored down. So you're going to have an energy on the outer edge of that thigh as well. Until we start to peel open through center. And then hold here. Use your fingertips back behind you to keep the spine long. Keep the outer edges of both knees driving open, creating as much space as you can for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. Allow that energy to soften. Maybe scooch your seat back. And I'm actually going to have you scooch further back in your mat and extend your legs long in front of you. Feel free to dance them out for just a moment. And I guess if you have a blanket nearby, a pillow, anything like that, if you want to soften your seat, find a little bit more ease there, feel free. You can always roll your mat up and back behind you. So from here, keep the left leg long. Bring the right heel in towards the inner thigh. And then you're going to spin the chest over that left thigh. Reach the crown of the head long. Exhale, fold forward. Feel free to grab hold of the sole of the left foot. But keep that chest long. Keep the pull, the energy from the collarbones, keeping them spread wide and then aiming towards the left ankle. Thinking of keeping that space will naturally maintain that length throughout this pose. And then squaring those collarbones off towards the thigh. Maybe you need to readjust your seat, flicking the tailbone just a little bit back behind you. And always feel free to keep a soft bend in the left knee. If you want to feel a little bit more compression in addition to the length, feel free to bend that knee even further to allow that connection to happen. And if you chose to bend your knee a little bit more so, Maybe you feel a difference between the energy created in the back of the leg versus the low back. Maybe you can explore a little bit of a twist. So if you want to grab hold of the outer edge of the left foot, bring the fingertips over outside the left hip and start to turn the chest towards the left edge of the mat, opening just a little bit. Just finding a little twist. Nothing deep, nothing expansive, nothing more than it has to be. Square back off if you entered that twist, and then start to walk the hands back up, bringing the chest tall. Right leg extends long, left leg comes back in, and then bring the left heel in towards the right inner thigh. You can keep the right leg out in front of you, or you can open it up just a hair. Again, whatever feels good for you. Maybe wiggle the sit bones back behind you. Flick the tailbone back in space. Turn the chest over that right leg, and then exhale, forward fold. Keeping that length within the spine, pulling the collarbones out towards the right ankle. If grabbing hold of the sole of the foot isn't in your practice, if you have a strap, again, I'm mentioning all of these props that I guess you could have brought along with you to find a little bit more ease, but you could always make these modifications in your body, especially in this class where props aren't necessarily needed. So if finding that deeper fold isn't accessible for you today, you can always bend the knee to bring it closer towards your chest. That'll make grabbing hold of the sole of the foot a little bit more accessible. And with that hold, you can always slowly drive the sole of the foot into the fingertips, into the hands, to explore a little bit more space within the back of the leg. But if you prefer to keep the leg straight, if that feels good for you, you can always grab hold of the calf to find that energy between the chest and the thigh. There's always different anchor points to make that connection happen. If you are able to grab hold of the sole of the foot, be sure to incorporate the pinky edge of the foot. Sometimes we like to pull straight with the big toe, and we get a little bit of rotation within the ankle there. If you want to find a little bit more depth, incorporate that pinky edge. Drive everything together up towards the shin. Collarbones long. On every inhale, you're finding length. On every exhale, you're folding forward. If you want to explore that twist a little bit more so again, go ahead and with the left hand, grab hold of the pinky edge of the finger. Oh my God. Pinky edge of your hand with your fingertips. Brain fart there. And then plant the right fingertips outside the right hip and start to peel the chest through over towards the right. Again, not a big twist. You're just finding a different movement through the entirety of the spine. Just a gentle change in your perspective. 2 more breaths. Inhale, reintegrate through that long spine. Exhale, maybe find a little bit more energy into that twist. Inhale back through center. And then start to walk yourself back up to that tall seat. Bring both legs out in front of you. Feel free to give them a good little wiggle. And then one more movement here in seated position. Again, we've been here for quite a few minutes at this point, so if you want to give yourself a support at this time for this last little moment to find ease, to maintain that ease, please feel free. We're going to come into a butterfly pose. So you're going to bring the soles of the feet towards one another, heels in towards the inner thighs, driving the outside edges of the knees once again towards the earth. And then using that clasp along the pinky edge, of the feet to find that broad, open chest, peeling the collarbones open, pressing engaging the shoulder blades just a little bit more to press the heart towards the top of the mat. And with that energy in the chest, your spine is naturally going to want to explore a little bit more length to support that opening. So breathe here for 2 breaths. Feel the strength, the power, the energy created all the way through the space within the base, so that connection between the heels and the inner thighs, and that energy translating from the inner thigh all the way to the outer edge of the knee as the hips turn on. And then you pull that energy all the way through the spine, through the crown of the head, as you peel the chest forward. So everything is turned on here. Drive the knees just a little bit more. Pull the chest just a little bit further forward for 3, 2, 1. And then start to pull that energy forward. Fold and hinge at the hips. Chasing the mat with your heart. And then once you feel like you've pulled that energy as much as you can, and you've actively folded as much as you feel like you have access to, then you can allow the upper body to round. Turn that energy into a little bit of softness. Feel gravity create some space within the back of the neck. And breathe. Slow and soft inhales and exhale. But with that softness of the upper body, you're still keeping a little bit of energy. It might not feel as intense, but you're still feeling the energy of the outer edge of the knees and the hips pressing down into the earth, keeping that space for yourself. One more breath. And then slowly unravel the spine, unhinge gently at the hips. And allow the spine, the neck to unravel nice and slow. Gaze lifts. You can unlace the fingers, grab hold of the outer edges of the knees, press the knees together. Feet or flat, knees are bent. Grab hold of the shins, the knees with your hands, and slowly start to round the back, coming down towards the earth nice and slow. When you can't hold on anymore, let the hands chow down the thighs and come onto your backs. With your knees bent, start to windshield wiper back and forth. And keep it soft. Inhales through center, exhales to fall. And just take a few breaths here to soften the energy that you may have built up in that butterfly pose. And now your next inhale, come back to center. You're going to drive the right knee up in towards the chest, keeping the left foot planted. And then you're going to drive the outer edge of the right knee open, open, open. Trying to actively enter a supine pigeon pose. So you're going to drive the knee, drive as the left ankle crosses over, or the right ankle crosses over the left thigh. And so actively move yourself as close as you can, and then just help yourself the rest of the way. So place your right ankle where you can comfortably rest. And once you're able to find that anchor point, then reintegrate with that activation of the right outer thigh. So continue to drive the right knee towards the top right corner of the mat for 3, 2, 1. If you're able to stay, if you want to stay here, feel free. You can use your hands to help support you in this position. But if you'd like to get a little bit deeper, keep that activation and then drive the left knee in towards you. Coming a little bit deeper into this hip stretch. Now when you progress this movement, it might be a little bit harder to keep that activation, but stay mindful of it. The more you're able to drive that right hip towards the top right corner, the deeper and more intense the sensations will be. Breathe into it. Breathe into that more closed off space, that greater intensity. Two more breaths here. Keep this pose a little bit more energetic than you may be used to. And drop the left foot. We're going to keep that energy, so drive the right knee towards the top of the mat, and then allow everything to fall over towards the left. Trying to keep the upper body anchored and still. And then feel free to grab hold of the right ankle to maintain this position to help support yourself. And then feel the change in sensation within the outer edge of the right hip. Give your body a moment to settle in before exploring that activation once more. Being in this position might be intense enough, so needing that extra oomph might not necessarily be within your space, your capacity today, and that's fine. If you want to see what that change feels like in your body, just give it a moment or two and drive for about 3 seconds. It doesn't have to be big, it's going to be small. So we're already in a pretty closed off space here. Inhale back towards center. Lift the right ankle from the left thigh. Allow the right foot to face the top of the mat once more. Drive the right knee in towards the chest for just a moment, and then drop the right leg down. Transitioning over to the other side. Drive the left knee towards the chest, and then start to pull the left ankle towards your right shoulder and drive the left knee towards the top corner of the mat. And try to make that turn all the way from deep into the hip. And then drive for as much as you can, bringing that left ankle across the right thigh. Help yourself there as much as you need. And then once you're anchored in, continue that drive of the outer edge of the left knee towards the top corner of the mat. See how this feels here, and maybe this might be where you hang out, and that's just fine. Use your hands as you need to encourage any space that you want to explore. Stay here or move a little bit further, keeping that drive of the left foot or the left knee, driving towards the top corner of the mat as the right knee drives in towards your chest. Feel that push and pull in opposite directions to keep that space. And then latch onto the right shin, pulling everything in towards you. Staying a little bit more active in this pigeon pose, or this reclined pigeon. With the intensity of this particular position, there is a tendency to turn that activation of the left knee on and off intermittently throughout these longer holds. So be okay with that. Know that your body's just working through the sensations that it's working through. So give your body a moment to settle in, tune into your breath, tune into the intensity of these sensations. 2 more breaths here. Keep that energy within the outer thigh. Maybe you can turn it on just a little bit more for the last 2 breaths. Then slow and with control, drop the right foot back down to the earth. Keeping this position, allow everything to fall over towards the right. Maybe grab hold of the left ankle to help guide it down. And being here Before turning anything on, activating any muscles in the hips, feel how this position, this pose, changes the sensation within your left hip. Might still feel a little bit intense, but it might feel different. If you just want to hang out here, that is a-okay. If you want to explore some space, see how it feels to engage the outer thigh by driving the left knee towards the top right corner of the mat. See how things may change, however small or big those changes may be. If you're feeling exploratory, if you feel like you have the space to do that, go ahead and see how it feels. One more breath. Inhale back towards center. Try to lift this is the hard part, but try to lift the left ankle from the right thigh. Drive everything in towards you. And then spin the left ankle towards the top of the mat so the sole of the foot is facing towards the top. Drive the left knee in towards your chest, and then allow everything to come down towards the earth. Gentle engagement of the core, flatten the back against the mat. So you can bring your both knees in towards your chest, give yourself a good squeeze. If happy baby is within your practice, go ahead and grab the outer blades of the feet. Bring the soles of the feet towards the sky, open the hips just a little bit, and then drive the knees alongside your body, opening the hips just a little bit more. You can find stillness or find movement if you want to explore straightening and rebending one side at a time, getting a little bit more so into the hamstrings. Or rock side to side. Maybe that feels good for you. Wherever you are, allow it to feel good in your body. Bring the heels in towards midline, squeeze the knees in towards the chest once more, and allow the feet to come down towards the earth. Coming into your final rest, you have a few options that may feel good. If you don't have any props readily accessible, feel free to bring your feet wide along the long edges of the mat. Allow the knees to fall in towards one another, giving your legs the opportunity to soften, the hips to soften. If you want to continue with some opening, another option is to bring the soles of the feet towards one another and allow the knees to open wide, coming into a reclined butterfly. That's something that might feel good for you. And one more option other than your traditional Shavasana to conclude class. If you do have a block with you, I didn't even grab one myself, but if you have one nearby and you want to place that underneath your sacrum, that big triangle at the base of your spine, if you'd like to place one there to find a little bit more opening directly within the front of the hips, again, another good option to end class here today. Wherever you choose to be, find ease, find comfort, find softness within the hips. There's a little bit more activation throughout class today to explore depth within a different capacity. So now take this moment to find more stillness, passive movement, passive opening. So that you can settle into your mat and also explore how those movements, how turning those muscles on make your hips feel in this moment. Now that all of that movement is done and has passed. Set yourself up to feel. And sometimes being able to explore those sensations can come a little bit easier when you recalibrate, tune into your breath. Come back into yourself if your mind strayed just a bit. Start by focusing on your breath. Turn your thoughts inward. Whether it's focusing on the sound that your breath makes with every inhale or exhale, or if you focus on the movement that's associated with the rise and fall of your chest, your belly. Everyone responds differently to different sensations, whether it's audible or tactile or physical or so whatever allows you to tune into your breath. Give yourself the space to explore that. And then once you tune into your breath, start to explore the other sensations that you created for yourself here in class today. So feel free to remain in your final rest for as long as you need to allow those sensations to wash over your body, to wash through you. And I look forward to seeing you in our next class together. Thank you so much for practicing with me.